At 0730 hours on January 24, 1945, First Lieutenant Garland Merle Connor crouched in a frozen observation post 400 yards ahead of American lines, watching German tank tracks carve through morning frost in the Colmar Pocket. 25 years old, 160 pounds, 5 feet 9 inches tall, intelligence officer, 7th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. This was not his job. Connor was born in Pinconning, Michigan. High school graduate. Enlisted October 1942. Trained at Fort Benning, Georgia. Commissioned June 1943. Assigned to 7th Infantry as an intelligence officer. His job: collect information, analyze enemy movements, report to command. Not call artillery fire. Not direct combat operations. Intelligence officers stayed behind the lines. Connor was 400 yards ahead of them. The temperature was 14 degrees Fahrenheit. Visibility: 300 yards in morning fog. The observation post was a shell crater reinforced with sandbags. Connor shared it with 3 enlisted men. Radio operator, 2 riflemen. They were surrounded. The Colmar Pocket was the last German stronghold west of the Rhine River. 50 miles long, 20 miles wide, 19,000 German troops. The 7th Infantry had been attacking since January 22nd. Progress: minimal. Casualties: mounting. The German 708th Volksgrenadier Division held the sector in front of Connor's position. Full strength. Well equipped. Dug in. They had counterattacked at dawn. 6 Tiger tanks. 600 infantry. Full battalion strength. The attack came straight at Connor's observation post. The American lines were 400 yards behind him. Between Connor and safety: frozen farmland, no cover, and 600 advancing Germans. Retreat was impossible. The Tiger tanks had cut the route. Each Tiger: 56 tons, 88mm gun, 100mm frontal armor. American Sherman tanks couldn't penetrate Tigers from the front. Calling for tank support. Minimum response time 45 minutes. Connor had perhaps 20 minutes before the German infantry over on his position. Air support. Weather grounded all aircraft. Visibility was too poor for close air support missions. Artillery was available. 7 batteries. 105mm howitzers. Range: 7 miles. Rate of fire: 4 rounds per minute per gun. But artillery couldn't fire this close to friendly troops. Standard artillery safety doctrine: minimum safe distance 200 yards from friendly positions. Connor was the friendly position. He called for fire anyway. At 0745 hours, Connor established radio contact with Fire Direction Center. He identified 6 Tiger tanks at coordinates 847,293. Range from his position: 600 yards. He identified enemy infantry advancing in line formation. Estimated strength: battalion size. He requested immediate fire mission. The Fire Direction Center acknowledged. Requested confirmation of friendly troop locations. Connor confirmed. All friendly troops were at his observation post. 4 men. Everyone else was 400 yards south. The Fire Direction Center calculated firing solutions. 7 batteries prepared to fire. 84 rounds in the first salvo. Do me a quick favor. Tap the like button. Every like tells YouTube this story deserves to be seen by more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're bringing overlooked wartime stories back into the light every day. Stories of crews, soldiers, and ordinary people driven by resolve and duty. Real lives. Real bravery. Back to Connor. At 0752 hours, the first shells impacted. Range: 600 yards from Connor's position. Behind the German formation. Connor observed the impacts through binoculars. Adjusted fire. Called corrections. Dropped 400 yards. Left 200 yards. The Fire Direction Center acknowledged. Calculated new firing solutions. at 0754 hours. The second salvo impacted. Range 400 yards. Closer. The shells landed in the German formation. Connor observed casualties. Estimated 20 Germans down. The formation kept advancing. The Tiger tanks kept advancing. Range 500 yards from Connor's position. At 0758 hours. Connor adjusted fire again. Dropped 200 yards. The shells were now impacting 300 yards from his position. Inside the safety buffer. The Fire Direction Center requested confirmation. Connor confirmed. Keep firing. The German infantry was 300 yards away. Connor could see individual soldiers. They were moving in squad formations. Standard German infantry tactics. Each squad, 10 men. MG-42 machine gun. 7 riflemen. 2 submachine guns. 60 squads total. 600 men. They were spread across 800 yards of front. Connor called for fire across the entire front. All 7 batteries. Continuous fire. The artillery battalions complied. Between 0800 and 0830 hours, 7 batteries fired continuously. Each gun, 4 rounds per minute. 28 guns total. 112 shells per minute. The barrage created a wall of explosions between Connor and the advancing Germans. Each shell, 95 pounds. High explosive. Lethal fragmentation radius, 35 yards. The math was simple. Connor was calling fire progressively closer to his own position. At 0810 hours, 200 yards. At 0820 hours, 150 yards. At 0825 hours, 100 yards. He was inside the danger zone. The German infantry took casualties but continued advancing. The Tiger tanks were unaffected by the artillery. They required direct hits to disable. Artillery hitting moving tanks. Probability less than 5%. Connor shifted fire to concentrate on the infantry. The tanks without infantry support were vulnerable. Infantry provided security. Spotted anti-tank positions. Cleared obstacles. Without infantry, tanks were blind. Connor called fire missions on the infantry formations. Walked the barrage back and forth across the German lines. The Fire Direction Center questioned the danger close missions. Connor acknowledged the risk. Continue firing. At 0835 hours, 3 Tiger tanks broke through the artillery barrage. Range 200 yards from Connor's position. The tanks were advancing on his observation post. Connor called fire directly on the approaching tanks. The shells impacted at 150 yards. The tanks kept coming. At 0840 hours, range 100 yards. Connor called fire at 75 yards from his position. The Fire Direction Center refused. Too close. Unacceptable risk of friendly casualties. Connor overrode the refusal. He was the forward observer. He had authority to direct fire missions. Continue firing. The artillery battalions complied. At 0842 hours, shells impacted 75 yards from Connor's position. The concussion knocked all 4 men in the observation post to the ground. Dirt and debris rained into the crater. 1 Tiger tank took a direct hit. Penetration. No damage. Track destroyed. The tank stopped. Immobilized. The other 2 tanks continued advancing. Range 75 yards. Connor adjusted fire. Dropped 50 yards. At 0844 hours, shells impacted 50 yards from his position. He was inside the lethal fragmentation radius. Shrapnel hit the sandbags. The radio operator reported minor wounds. Shrapnel fragments in his left arm. Connor continued calling fire missions. The remaining 2 Tiger tanks turned away from the barrage. They retreated to the German lines. The infantry advance had stalled. Casualties were too heavy. Connor observed the German formation breaking up. Small groups retreating. Some groups holding position. Most groups falling back. He called fire on the retreating formations. The artillery battalions shifted fire, pursued the retreating Germans. Between 0845 and 0900 hours, the barrage moved progressively away from Connor's position, back to 200 yards, then 300 yards, then 400 yards. The German counterattack had failed. At 0915 hours, Connor ceased fire. The German forces had withdrawn. He counted casualties from his observation post. Estimated 50 to 60 Germans killed. Unknown number wounded. 1 Tiger tank destroyed by track damage. 5 Tiger tanks withdrawn. Battalion strength infantry attack. Repulsed. American casualties from the artillery barrage. 1. The radio operator's shrapnel wounds were superficial. Connor's observation post had survived. All 4 men were alive. The American lines 400 yards behind them were intact. The German breakthrough had been stopped. Connor remained in the observation post until 1200 hours. No further German attacks materialized. At 1210 hours, American infantry advanced past his position. The 7th Infantry began clearing the sector. Connor and his 3 men withdrew to American lines. They walked 400 yards across frozen farmland. The route was covered with shell craters. Impact marks every 10 yards. Over 3,000 shells had been fired during the 3-hour engagement. The landscape was torn apart. Connor reported to regimental headquarters at 12:45 hours. Filed his after-action report. Estimated enemy casualties: 53 killed, unknown wounded. Friendly casualties: 1 minor wound. Artillery expenditure: 3,100 rounds. Connor was evacuated at 1420 hours. Not for wounds. For evaluation. Calling artillery fire at 50 yards from friendly positions violated every safety protocol. Medical officers examined him for combat fatigue. Diagnosis: none. He was physically and mentally sound. He returned to duty January 25th. The next day, on January 26th, his regimental commander recommended him for the Medal of Honor. The recommendation cited conspicuous gallantry at risk of life beyond the call of duty. Connor accepted the recommendation, said nothing. The Medal of Honor was approved June 1945. Presented August 18, 1945, by Major General John W. O'Daniel at Salzburg, Austria. The citation detailed the action at the Colmar Pocket. 3 hours of continuous artillery direction. 53 enemy casualties. 6 Tiger tanks neutralized. Battalion strength attack repulsed. Minimum safe distance violated repeatedly. Closest fire mission: 50 yards. Connor attended the ceremony. Received the medal. Shook hands with General O'Daniel. Said nothing about January 24th unless asked. Connor was discharged November 1945. Returned to Pinconning, Michigan. Married Pauline Lyons in 1946. 2 children. Worked as a postal clerk for the United States Postal Service. 37 years. Never spoke about the Colmar Pocket unless asked. When asked, his answer was brief. Orders required artillery support. He was the forward observer. He called the fire missions. That was all. He attended 3rd Infantry Division reunions. Saw men from the 7th Infantry Regiment. They remembered January 24th. Connor did not discuss it. The mathematics had worked. He had survived. 53 Germans had not. The American lines had held. That was sufficient. Do me a quick favor. Tap the like button. Every like tells YouTube this story deserves to be seen by more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're bringing overlooked wartime stories back into the light every day. Stories of crews, soldiers, and ordinary people driven by resolve and duty. Real lives. Real bravery. Leave a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, or somewhere else? This audience reaches across the entire world. You're not just watching, You're helping preserve history. Let us know if someone in your family served, or simply let us know you're here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for making sure these stories are not forgotten. They deserve to be remembered, and your support makes that possible. Connor died November 26, 1998. Heart failure. 78 years old. 53 years after the Colmar Pocket. Military funeral. Full honors. Honor Guard from the 3rd Infantry Division. Members of the 7th Infantry Regiment attended. His Medal of Honor was donated to the National Infantry Museum at Fort Benning, Georgia. It is displayed there now. The citation records 3 hours of continuous fire direction, 53 enemy casualties, and artillery missions at 50 yards from friendly positions. Connor called fire inside the lethal fragmentation radius. He survived. The radio operator survived. 2 riflemen survived. The American lines survived. The mathematics were impossible. They worked anyway.